Welcome to the season one recap of the Next Flex podcast series, Electronics at the Edge. This is Stan Farnsworth. I've had the great honor of hosting the first episodes of this exciting podcast series. This first series really was focusing on what is hybrid electronics, and we had a series of notable guests from inside the organization. Dr. Dan Gamoda is our executive director. He came in episode 1. We talked about what are hybrid electronics, why are they important, what kinds of applications are best suited for hybrid electronics. Episode 2 is Dr. Scott Miller. He's our director of technology and is a world-class expert in the technology and trends and road mapping for hybrid electronics. Episode 3 was Dr. Nick Morris, our Deputy Director of Technology, and he's been very instrumental in leading and managing our very important project call process, which takes elements of funding and uses that as a basis to create and foster the hybrid electronics ecosystem. And then episode 4 was Becky Lewis. She is our Director of Workforce Development and is an expert in all things workforce development, technology, education, and her education background really comes into play for that. Today, what we'll do is talk a little bit about some of the highlights of these episodes and set the stage for season 2. When we think about hybrid electronics, we are really talking about electronics which are flexible, additive, often using different materials, using different fabrication processes, and are generally thought of as distinct from traditional electronics manufacturing technologies. And traditional electronics manufacturing technologies are often thought of as rigid substrate for etched copper plating, reflow ovens, and those certainly form the basis for the electronics in the world around us today, both on the commercial side and on the defense side. But increasingly over the last decade plus, we've seen market pull and national security pull for electronics which do not neatly fit into that traditional electronics category. Typically, these are electronics needs which maybe require flexible substrates, novel materials, very novel, unusual use cases. Think wearables, think certain types of medical devices or antennas on airplane wings, these kinds of applications where a rigid for reflow oven solution set is not adequate. Value propositions for hybrid electronics include perhaps extra lightweight applications which require unique form factors, curves, shapes, flexible, or perhaps applications where the use case requires functionality being applied into forms and shapes and places that would not otherwise be able to accommodate that kind of electronics functionality. At NextFlex, we are uniquely set up to be able to work with and develop these kinds of technologies, do prototyping, and work with commercial and defense customers. Scott Miller in his episode talked more about that kind of ecosystem. In fact, I would encourage you to go back and listen to these episodes separately. There's so much more detail than we'll be able to pull together in this quick recap and as we look ahead for season 2. But Scott Miller really was able to talk about the depth and breadth and extent of the ecosystem that NextFlex has formed and been able to foster, including academic elements, commercial elements throughout the supply chain, and the membership element that is so important and foundationally critical to the functioning of NextFlex, which brings world-class expertise together and also serves as an entry point for people and companies and organizations that may be new to the hybrid electronic space and are interested in exploring that as a set of resources, consulting, guidance for their own projects and programs moving forward. Dr. Nick Morris came in and talked more about the project call process that really is a key functional element that pulls these ecosystem pieces together for funded programs. And then Becky Lewis was able to talk with us about workforce development, starting in the K through 12 range, schools, the number of individual students that NextFlex has been able to support and provide guidance through our Flex Factor program, and then also through different types of mentorship. And then looking ahead, what's on the horizon for workforce development. And as we look around our world today and continue to see affirmation and confirmation of the demand signals that are pulling hybrid electronics. Major events like the Consumer Electronics Show for 2026 in Las Vegas were highlighting and focusing physical AI as the next step in the AI narrative, not just ChatGPT or Claude or Grok, but actually implementing physical sensing and even decision making and processing with devices, robots, medical sensors, lawn robots for some reason, a big focus at this year's CES. But these are classic emerging examples for how hybrid electronics and how the materials and functionality of this technology set are providing excellent value and responding to evolving market interests. We also know that the defense markets are strong. There are new and emerging challenges to be able to not just innovate on the electronics technology implementation side in the defense ecosphere, but also be able to ramp and scale. And so the manufacturing, the scale up, the technology readiness levels, the manufacturing readiness levels, there are new and continuing needs to be able to move these capabilities forward. That really sets the stage looking at season 2. So electronics at the edge for season 2 will be focused on the theme of moving from the laboratory to the line, from early stage and mid stage prototyping and low rate initial production into full scale manufacturing. We'll be speaking with Fabian Schnegg, who is our Director of Engineering and Fab Services. He will be talking with us about how NextFlex has worked on this approach. But we will also be meeting with exciting guests from the traditional electronics manufacturing space and the challenges and opportunities that those experts see from their perspective. We'll also be meeting with representatives from other aspects of perspective from our ecosystem and the network, including academic partners, including small and medium-sized companies. And we also will have special guests representing the perspective of large companies. And I think the trends that we'll see moving through this, we will continue to see the need for continued technology innovation. We'll talk about what resources and direction that innovation is taking, but also we'll be focusing on translating that implementation into real manufacturing volumes. What are some of the challenges associated with transitioning through technology and manufacturing readiness levels? What are commercialization challenges? And by the way, here's a hint. I think we're going to find that some of those challenges are not just technology related. We'll talk about product marketing. We'll talk about the need for technology awareness and some of the risks and risk management associated with moving these technologies forward into manufacturing and into a broader user base. So please stay tuned. Look for updates. We'll be issuing more details on season 2 to come. But until then, this is Stan Farnsworth at NextFlex for Electronics at the Edge, wrapping up season 1.